Hello and welcome back to another comic series AMA. This month we're going to focus on questions centered on Tales of Symphonia. Tales of Symphonia is a JRPG in the Tales of series that focuses on the journey of regeneration that Colette the Chosen must go on to save the dying world of Silverond. It's one of my favorite RPGs of all time, very nostalgic for me, so I'm excited to do this one. Let's get into the first batch of questions from Aquasun. What do you think of the world building of Tales of Symphonia? I really like it. Having a declining, flourishing world system is a really interesting concept, and it feels really fleshed out. I really like the way that the packs for summoning spirits in the story works too, and each town feels like it has its own flair and identity. Next question, who did you pair Lloyd with? I think in earlier playthroughs I usually went with Sheena, and obviously I did probably at least one playthrough seeing each option, but these days I usually default to Zelos. I think he has one of the more interesting stories and has this very unique sort of path that he and Lloyd take. Next question, favorite comics from the series? There are so many good ones in this one, but I would have to say some of my top choices would be the comic about the coffee scene, always a classic. The comic about over-leveling really early on in the story is another favorite of mine. The Ymir fruit puzzle comic is another fun one. And lastly, the struggling to gather info in Gaia comic, because that was a very painful, forgetful moment in a playthrough that lasted far much longer than it needed to. Next question. What makes Tales of Symphonia unique from other games in the RPG genre? It's kind of a milestone game from quite a few years back now, so some of its aspects have continued into the present day, which makes it a little harder to say it's unique in this day and age, because things followed after it, so it makes it a little harder to stand out, so to speak. But there are still a few things. One of which is I actually really like the more jump-focused gameplay, which is, I guess, a bit more of a hot take. Obviously, free run is a great evolution of the battling system, and I do love that in the newer Tales games. But there is a je ne sais quoi about having to jump over enemies and really think about your vertical movement because you're stuck on that line axis, right? It feels really rewarding when you can figure out how to juke them. Another part is the strike versus tech system. Well, I think that there is some fine-tuning that could be done to make it a little bit better. The fact that there's essentially two sets of arts that you can choose from and mix and match which ones you prefer is really neat. I'd love to see a more expanded version of this system in some sort of game, because I really like that there's that sort of choice where, the tech side could be better for magic, but then strike side could be better for physical moves, and trying to figure out which ones you want. Another aspect of the game that's very unique is the depth of the cooking system of all things. Not only does it have each character having different specialties and different star rankings, but they actually use different bonus ingredients and have different tastes. Like, example, Lloyd hates tomatoes, so any recipe that has a tomato in it, I believe he defaults to 2 stars, because he hates making it because it has tomatoes in it. And obviously he never uses it as an extra ingredient, but that's really neat. The last thing I'd say is really unique to Tales of Symphonia is the way that the Sorcerer's Ring is used in solving the puzzles. Obviously a few Tales games after it followed in its footsteps, but I really feel like Tales of Symphonia specifically had a really malleable way of doing things, where it had this little magic machine at the start of every dungeon that just changed what the ring could do. And honestly, it's such a genius move because it makes the puzzle solving in the game really unique and engaging, in my opinion. Next question, and last from Aquasun. If you could add, remove, change, or edit something in the remake of Symphonia, what would it be? It's actually a really tough question, as most people would probably default to the adding free run, but I've already mentioned that I actually like the more linear battle system for its uniqueness. So I would say it's really tough, but I think a way to make experimenting with EX skills a bit easier, which is a system I didn't mention, but I also think that it's really neat. I tend to prefer something like the Vesperius skill system, but this one was kind of the baseline for it. And I think I would like it more if there was at least some way to unlock an easier way to experiment with it, because as is, you get gems, and if you equip them, that's it. They're consumed, and they're kind of like you can't get them back if you replace them with a different gem later, which is a little bit hard to deal with. And they have these compound skills, which are really neat, but again, because they're consumable, it kind of doesn't really feel like you want to, test out the combinations, because you're like, where am I going to get all these gems? Because some of them, I think there are ways to get them no matter what, but obviously the higher level ones are more difficult to get. So you don't really want to experiment with those ones because it could be a pain to get them back. But if there was like a new quest or something added in a remake that lets you get those, like it would be a hard quest obviously, so you wouldn't be overpowered, but at least something that you could use to unlock higher level gems, or like they're not consumed or something, that would make it a lot more fun, in my opinion, to experiment and find those compounds a bit easier. The next set of questions, and the last set of questions, comes from Angel Princess, and they actually focus on Symphonia's sequel game, Dawn of the New World. First of which is, did you ever tackle Gladsheim, I think is how you say it? How far did you get? I don't believe I ever did. I liked the game okay when I played it, but mostly just played through the main game and not really the extra stuff. I think I also didn't own it. I think it was a friend's, or I was like renting it, so I think that might have also been why I didn't really do many extra things in Dawn of the New World. The next question, was the monster party fun to build or a hassle to configure? I feel like I remember it being more of a hassle, or at the very least I remember always putting in the Symphonia cast cameo characters into my party, even though they didn't level up. I just think it got a bit unnecessary, like, it didn't really feel all that fully fleshed out, and if I needed a monster then I would do it, but that was basically it. I didn't really engage with the system, because I don't know, it didn't feel like it meshed with Symphonia World, and it was just a slap in the face that the Symphonia cast didn't level up. The next question, did you main Emil or Marta? I played both pretty equally until I figured out how to air combo with Emil, which was really fun, so I kept sticking with him after that. The next question, and the last question, is what cutscene in Dawn of the New World would you say is your favorite? This answer is spoilers, but it is the last question of the video, so if you don't want to be spoiled for Dawn of the New World things, you can just skip to the outro. But I would say that my favorite scene is actually the one that I remember most clearly, because I will be frank, I don't remember too many of the cutscenes in the game. Like, I remember the basic premise and some moments, but I did play it a while ago. And again, I liked it alright, but it wasn't like my favorite or anything, so I only played it the one time. But the one scene that did stick with me was Alice and Dex's death scene. I think that their characters were ones that made a bit more of an impact on me when I played, so seeing their ends was actually pretty tragic and made, me remember it. Though I did watch it again just to refresh myself for this. The animations in that game, they were definitely trying things. Looks a little awkward. Yeah, I still think it worked though, but it definitely could have been elevated more if they had a bit of a better grasp on their animation system. But that is the last question for this month's AMA, so we'll go on over to the outro. Here you can see my patrons and their lovely NPCs scrolling by. If you're interested in asking a question or any of the other rewards that come along with supporting me, check out the Patreon link in the description. Rewards include seeing comics before they're posted publicly, behind-the-scenes drawings, voting which comic series will be featured next month, and more. Even without pledging, you can have access to things like preview panels, coloring pages, and occasionally some of the lower tiered rewards as a little taste of what pledging can get you. Thank you to everyone who asked a question and anyone who watched this video. The support means a lot to me. So until next month, bye!